Welcome everyone to session 6 of the conference. And I'd just quickly like to acknowledge that I'm working and living on the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar peoples, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And we have a wonderful diverse range of papers from people from a range of sectors in our session, really, which actually reflects all the different interest groups that we've been talking about. So first up, we've got Scott Mundell, and I might get Scott Scott, while you're, I'll see you on the, if you'd like to share your screen.
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
While I'm introducing you. So Scott Mundell is talking about, is talking from Yarra Plenty Regional Library in Victoria, and his topic is supporting homegrown stars, library makerspaces as creative incubators. Now, Scott is a digital librarian, games developer and avid maker who's been bringing his natural curiosity to public libraries for over 10 years. And with a background of interactive media and computer science, he brings a unique perspective to public libraries, and most recently establishing a makerspace in the Yarra Plenty Regional Libraries and Cultural Hub. So what I'm going to do is just to let you know that I'll give a 5-minute little chimes. I don't know if you can hear that when you've got 5 minutes left to go in the 20-minute presentation. Hopefully that works as to keep us on track with this. So without further ado, if you can take control, Scott.
Yeah, great, awesome. Thank you, Linda, for the introduction. As a really important aspect as a part of growing jobs, developing skills, and securing Victoria as kind of a reputation as a cultural destination. And so to this end, the Victorian government has put together the Creative State Strategy 2025, and they've dedicated $288 million over 4 years to put towards the creative state endeavors. And the primary pillars, I guess, of that strategy that it's aiming to achieve is to have more and better job opportunities and pathways, innovative creative products and experiences, industry stability and growth, equal access to creative industries and new audiences and markets. So for libraries, it's really important for us to be seen as an active part of the creative industry and economy. And for those two last points of equitable access and new audiences and markets, libraries can play a really important role to that, to provide equipment for the community that they may not be able to get elsewhere, and then also to expose it to new people within the community that they can then contribute to the creative economy. So these, the creative state strategies are really important to our member councils as well. And so they really support us in these actions, and they're pursuing them themselves. But they've also added on a couple of extra pillars as well that are at more of a local level that we really use to guide us to. And that is to encourage diverse community groups and to create a sense of community participation, and then really focus in on the different resources that public libraries can provide for parts of the community that may not have the financial backing or background to be able to access those types of things themselves. So as I was researching for this presentation and saw that there were the 5 music rights, which is not something that I'd come across before, I started to really see a lot of parallels between the principles of a makerspace. So what is a makerspace and what does it actually aim to achieve? And so a makerspace, by kind of traditional definition, is a place where people can meet together with shared interests, and they can share ideas, access equipment, knowledge, and kind of work together in a collaborative area. So it's quite a broad and general term, and you may have heard it kind of referred to in different ways, like a create space or a start space or collaboration zone, those types of words. but really the principles come down to being able to learn and explore and play together, and do that in more of an informal manner. So it's outside of kind of traditional schooling, like primary school, high school, or higher education places, more where you can get that informal help and kind of learn and talk with each other. And so the last point there is kind of developing a culture of creating opposed to just consuming. And so I saw quite a few linkages with the 5 music rights in terms of things like access to musical involvement through participation and listening, having equipment and proper facilities and things like that. So it was quite interesting to see how aligned these 2 areas were. So Yarra Plenty Regional Library has 6 makerspaces, and then we also have a maker library, which is essentially like a library collection of makerspace equipment. And so these 6 makerspaces started at around 2014, 2016. They kind of developed over time. And you can see the 6 different circles here is representing the 6 different makerspaces that we have. Each one has its own specialization and is based in one of our different branches. And so these 6 makerspaces have come about through one community consultation. So we ask the communities what type of makerspace or what type of activities would you like to see and do. And then the second one was really around the staff capacity and partner capacity. So makerspaces, you need to have someone that is going to be able to drive it forward, who has that knowledge and can speak to it, and be able to form those partnerships with those other people that are going to be able to be involved in your makerspace and maybe present or be a sponsor and that type of thing. So the 6 makerspaces we've got have been both dictated by our community, but then also the capacity we have in staffing. And so that's why it's really important for libraries to hire people with diverse skills. We're seeing that happening more and more. And in a lot of the makerspaces across the country, in Australia and international, there's often people that come from those creative backgrounds exclusively that are employed to run those makerspace areas. So the design makerspace is the one that we have at the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub. So that focuses a lot on graphic design, 3D modeling. Those are areas that I have skills in, so things like video editing. And then we have our craft and textiles, robotics technology. The brain makerspace is more around brain health and activities for seniors. We have one for writing and publishing. And then our most recent one was on gardening and food related topics. So you may notice that we don't actually have a specific music makerspace, which is actually quite a popular thing to have in a makerspace. I've toured a lot of makerspaces across Australia and in the US as well. So a lot of the images you're seeing here are from makerspaces in the United States. And a lot of those have things like recording studios, mixing tables, musical equipment, that type of thing. So it is quite a popular piece of a technology to have in a makerspace. And it's not something that we have not done for a reason. It's something we may do in the future, but I'll touch on a few little points about why we maybe don't have one at the moment and how we're kind of partnering with some other organizations that are fulfilling that need. But yeah, makerspaces are really key places to be able to have these types of equipment and these recording studios and equipment and music. And for a lot of these ones, it really is popular with mostly young people and children and youth. So it has a lot of equipment that is regarding to like musical mixing rather than more traditional instruments, that type of thing. So this is a 360 image here of the makerspace in the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub, which just opened last year in March, so it's quite new. We did have a makerspace in our old building, which was almost the size of a broom cupboard. It was tiny, but we made it work. You don't have to have a super fancy, expensive place to do a makerspace. It really comes back to those principles as an area where people can meet and collaborate together. So you don't have to have a huge budget. You don't have to have a big area to make one. You can start small. And so our makerspace has equipment like a 3D printer, a laser cutter, we have a craft cutter, and then we have a number of different computers that are loaded up with some specialized software. So like the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, which has things like Photoshop, Illustrator, we have 3D modeling programs, we have some music programs as well, like Audacity and so forth. And so this is our main space where we run our workshops. And the area is designed to be quite open and accessible. One of the important things that we wanted to do with this new makerspace that differed from our old one was to have it so that it was independently accessible, so people could come in whenever they wanted. It wasn't something that we were keeping behind barriers or kind of gatekeeping or stopping people from using. We wanted to be able to open it up so it was available in their own time for their own interests. We still do safety inductions to make sure that the equipment is used properly. And we do still offer workshops in order for people to build those skills in the future for them to be able to use it independently. But we don't restrict any usage at all. So this is an example of some of the things that we do in our makerspaces. So on the far left, we have some little laser cut mandalas, I think those were. We have some laser etch pencils, and we've got some 3D printed objects. So the way that our workshops are based is that we don't assume any prior knowledge at all. So when you come into a workshop, you don't need to know anything. We go from the most beginner level all the way to the end of the workshop, where we're really focusing on kind of outcomes. We're really focusing on something tangible that you can take away, rather than all the theory that's behind it. And so what we can do with that end is we put together a whole lot of workshops that are based around a whole lot of different projects, whether it is 3D printed chess pieces, or it's laser cut earrings or badges or whatever it needs to be. But really the content and the structure of those workshops is the same. We start off with really those basic concepts, and we build through kind of a project-based approach. And so anyone that comes to one of our workshops can come to another one, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 throughout the whole year. And they're always doing something different. They're always doing something fresh and new, but they're also building those skills as they go along. So they get the reinforcement of those beginner teachings that we're giving out. And then we add in kind of some extra little challenges here or there, or we start to open it up more about like, hey, what would you like to do? What would you like to add to this? How would you like to make this program, this project your own? And that's been working really well for us. In our old makerspace, when we were running for about 2 years, we had people that came from the start and they didn't know anything about how to use Illustrator to create laser cut files or 3D printing files to create objects. And over those 2 years, they started to build those skills and proficiencies and get to the point where they can just make projects on their own. This is the user flow that we base our makerspaces around. So like I was talking about how we have those beginner workshops that you can repeat over and over to kind of build those skills. This is how we kind of structure it. We're kind of aiming to fulfill the 3 different tier levels of someone who's interested in the makerspace or even just doing kind of creative projects. How can we fulfill each of those different needs? So the first one, stage 1, is just, you know, beginner, no experience. We're going to offer you workshops where you can follow along with us and follow along with other people to create a project together. They do that as many times as they feel they need to, and then they can come to stage 2, which is assisted drop-in sessions. So this is where we have a skilled person, like a staff member or a partner or a volunteer, that has sessions where they can book a one-on-one time or a group time that they can get help with their own projects. So we're giving that freedom to explore their own areas. And then the final stage is where they can book in the equipment and use it completely independently. And one of the things that we're really aiming to do with this, since it's something new, we weren't able to do the independent access in the old building. It's something that new that's just come in with our new makerspace, is we want to encourage those people that get to that stage 3 and use the makerspace independently to start to become champions and they can then feed back into the community and kind of run workshops or do those assisted drop-ins, and then build the community from there. So we can make something that's a bit more self-sustaining than just relying on those skilled staff members that you get at the start to kind of get things going and kind of oversee everything. Staff move on, as we know, and things change, and new skills and new technology comes in. So if we can get people that are more invested in the makerspace and they use it themselves and they want to help others, then it's going to be something that's a lot more sustainable. So although we don't have a specific music-orientated makerspace, we still do quite a few music-related programs. One of the things that we do offer is the loaning of musical equipment through our STEM library and our makerspace library, things like the podcasting kit that you can loan out, which has microphones and monitors and audio interface, an iPad that you can use for mixing and recording. And so we're looking at expanding those types of things to include video cameras and extra equipment as well. As we've had, the pandemic has happened and lots of people have been moving online and kind of doing more content creation, we want to be able to support that through the lending of equipment. So along with the podcasting kit, we also offer things like robotics, so robots that are aimed at education for children, for coding, or other kind of STEM related subjects. And so we offer that for our members just to loan out like any other item, like a book or a DVD or anything like that. And then we also tie in a lot of other musical elements to our other programs. So a lot of these are aimed at young children and youth. And we like to add in some different interactive elements into the kind of the music creation process. So for example, down on the bottom right there where it says makey makey instruments. So makey makeys are like a little electronic circuit board that you can attach to objects to act as almost just like a controller, like a little controller where you press buttons and have actions happen. So in that example, they've created a fruit piano, which is quite fun. And you can use that to kind of play music. And that's all tying into the creative element and the STEM elements, so science, technology, math, arts, that type of thing. And then combining it with music to kind of create quite a unique experience where children can create their own instruments out of whatever they like. Fruit, lollies, it can be out of kind of like conductive tape, those types of things.
1 minute to go.
Oh, thank you. And then so I wanted to touch on another project that we ran early January 2021. So this one was Homegrown Summer. This particular project was aimed at all ages, and it started from a grant from one of our member councils, Nillumbik, who were offering funding for projects that would create community connection during summer of 2021, so reconnection after the pandemic and things like that. And so we, as a part of our garden makerspace, which has a focus on cooking and growing food and that type of thing, we wanted to create a music competition and bring music as a way to connect people into this process. And so we put forward an application to host a thing called Homegrown Summer, where we would employ local chefs and film videos of them cooking that you can follow along with. And then the other aspect was a music competition where we could record a short video or audio clip and upload it to social media. So it had quite a bit of a youth-orientated approach to it. And we got quite a good reception. So we've got a whole lot of young artists that submitted their own music. It could have been either a cover or an original. Surprisingly, I think around 90% of them were originals, which was really awesome to see. Running a music competition was something new for us. We had to be careful about copyright and so forth. So having originals was really awesome because we could post them up and promote them. And so there was one winner from each member council, and we had a prize for some money for musical equipment. And then the three main prizes were things like a recording studio. Some of the partners that were involved in that were Nillumbik Council, and we also had Banyule City Council's Youth Services Department, who run the Jets Studio, which is a musical studio for young people where it is basically ran by them. They do it for work placement, and they can come in and record their own music, do art together, that type of thing. We have quite a strong relationship with them, and this is kind of, I see, one of the reasons why Banyule libraries at least don't have their own music makerspace, because one of our partners is doing it really well, and we have a good relationship with them. And they put forward as one of the prizes a recording studio session, which was really awesome. And then for the other promotion, we went to local schools, music shops, that type of thing, and they promoted the competition to their students. And so one of our winners emailed me a couple of weeks after with this quote, which was that they had been interested in music, and the experience had really helped them find that passion and use it to create something amazing from their recording studio session that they had won. So for me, this was a really great thing to see, that we'd done something right, that the grant and the project that we'd put forward had connected people and promoted a lot of their musical passions, and then actually given a chance for someone within our local community to do something that they might not have been able to do otherwise, and really kind of, you know, get into it and pursue it a little bit more. So that kind of all tied back to really what the makerspaces were about and what that creative state strategy was all about. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm really looking forward to hearing the other presentations, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I saw a whole lot of things happening in the chat, so I'll take a look at those now. Yeah, I'll leave my contact details there. Yeah,
thank you. So there are no questions in the chat per se. There's lots of fantastic comments and oohing and ahhing and sharing. Yeah, just the wonderful things that you're doing. That's really exciting work that you're doing. And one of the comments is just the fact that music is actually, it interjects in so many different aspects of all those spaces that you were talking about. So you almost don't need just a music sort of dedicated session. You can actually integrate it in so many ways, which is great that you've done that. And partnerships that you're doing is really wonderful.